Hello and welcome to Mirror Fighting One to Watch. I'm Rich Jones and today I'm joined by Muhammed Ali, the UK's first diabetic boxer, talking about some of the challenges he's faced in his journey and what lies ahead after a 6-0 start to his professional career. Muhammad obviously got a pretty famous name boxing-wise, Muhammad Ali, but gather it was purely coincidental, wasn't it, that you ended up with named after such a legend?
Yeah, absolutely. Got no family history of boxing. My father, up till this day, doesn't like boxing. He's just supported me, and it was just a name given, nothing to do with boxing whatsoever.
Yeah, and when did you sort of realise that it was, a name that's obviously got such sort of connotations with boxing as a sport? When did that sort of sink in? When did you realise that growing up?
To be honest with you, Rich, for example, I've got one brother and one younger sister, and my elder brother, he's more into his consoles, and there's only 18 months between us, and I'm more into football, playing football, hands-on cricket, boxing, karate. And as a youngster, he'd get the latest console and I'd get the latest football trainers or, boxing gloves taken, being taken by my mother or father to the local football club. And realize I'm in the wrong sport, playing football and doing karate. I need to move over to boxing. But as a youngster, I remember watching boxing at home. Me and my brother absolutely enjoyed watching boxing, your WWF, football week in, week out, and just knew I had to go down the boxing route.
And how old were you when you first? For me. Yeah, how old were you when you first went to the gym and started boxing?
Firstly, I got put into karate. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 4 or 5. And my mother and father spoke to a dietitian and my nurse, like, how can we control Ali's diabetes in a better manner? And they said, keep him involved in sports, keep him physically active, and it'll help keep his blood sugars down, his levels down. So my dad took me to a local karate club, and I absolutely hated taking part in karate. And my dad just wasn't bothered that I hated the sport. He just wanted me there getting disciplined and, controlling my diabetes by being physically active. And I'd always come back home and say to my mother, please take me to the local boxing club, Because at the time, I remember Prince Nassim, he was fighting Barrera at the time. We'd watch him against Kevin Kelly, Augie Sanchez, Steve Robinson, and Ricky Hatton were coming through as well, just newly starting off when Naz was like coming to the end. And we've always just watched boxing, and I thrive of, watching them guys, perform in such a good manner and thousands of people supporting them. And I said to my mum, please, I want to be like, them guys. I want to be like the next Prince Naz or the Ricky Hatton, Joe Calzaghe. I want to be like them. Look, they're bringing football stadiums, they're filling them out, and they're bringing countries to a standstill. I'd like to do something like that. And then I remember my father taking me and my brother to watch Costa Zoo versus Ricky Hatton, and the fight was, I think, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning at the Manchester Arena, which is like literally 15-minute drive away from us, from our house. And my dad took us up, and we were there. They locked the doors at 12 a.m. and we were all packed in one arena. And I was like, wow, when the national anthem came on, the whole stadium come to a standstill. I think all of England, Great Britain came to a standstill that night to watch Ricky Hatton become the unified light welterweight champion. Came home, speaking with my mum, saying, I've just watched Ricky Hatton, bring whole of Manchester to a standstill. And then Amir Khan, he went to the Olympics. And remember 2004, this was before the Costa Zoo fight. He brought all of Great Britain to a standstill when he won the silver medal. And I remember my mum, my dad watching the boxing as well when Amir performed in the Olympics. I was like, Mum, look, I can do something like that. And then I got taken to the local amateur gym by my mum. She sneaked, behind my dad's back, took me to the boxing gym. And the coach said, after a couple of weeks, I'd like to speak to your father. And I just asked him, I said, why would you like to speak to my father? And he said, look, I think you're good enough to take part as an amateur boxer, compete as an amateur boxer. So I came home and I told my mum, and I said, Mum, look, my coach, my amateur coach, the first coach was called Steve. And I said, Steve wants to speak to Dad. And she was like, we can't get him. If he finds out you're going to the boxing gym, he's going to say, no, you can't go again. So managed to speak, being good at school, after school, speaking to my father. I was about 12 or 13 at the time. I said to my dad, look, I've been good at school. Teacher's given a good report. My boxing coach wants to speak to you. And he said, boxing coach? I said, yeah, Mum's been taking me to the local gym. And he's like, I don't know anything about this. And I said, yeah, Mum she's seen me behaving at school and doing good. So she took me to a local gym, and he said, all right, I'll, come and watch you train today. So he come, and my coach spoke to him and said, look, Ali can, compete at amateur level if you allow him to. So I did my medical, and it got denied, got cancelled because of me being type 1 diabetic, and I didn't get to box as an amateur.
Yeah. And just going back to that, obviously you said you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when you were pretty young. I mean, even outside of boxing, before you started boxing, how much of a challenge was that, as a kid having to deal with that? Was it tough to deal with at times?
It was tough, but I can't thank the NHS enough. They educated my mother and father so much about how to control my diabetes in a good manner. My dad would tell them, we were open, you've got to be open with the NHS, tell them how your activity levels are. As a diabetic, you've got to speak the honest truth, how your daily routine is. And my mother and father never hid anything away from, my nurses and the healthcare professionals. Just told them what I'd get up to during my day. And my dad told the nurse, look, he's taking part in boxing. So my dietitians had told me how to manage my diet. But as a youngster, it was very hard because, like, for example, at school, I'd be given a small bottle of milk during the break. No, the kids, non-diabetics, they'd be given a bottle of milk, whereas I'd be given 2 Mars bars, small, the fun size snack bar. I'd be given 2 of them to consume, and a Diet Coke can, the mini can. Whereas the non-diabetics, the other kids, they'd be given glass bottles of milk, and I'd be like feeling alienated, being left out, thinking, why are they getting milk and I'm getting a Diet Coke can and a Mars bar? But the kids would be jealous of me, and I'd be jealous that they're drinking milk. They'd be like, can we have a snack? Can we have a Mars bar? Can you sneak it towards us? And I'd be like, no, let me enjoy my Mars bar. And I felt left out quite a lot. Like, for example, my school teachers, I thank them each and every single day for the man I am today. They'd check my sugar levels during lessons because I'd feel poorly sometimes. And they've helped me so much. So it was a big struggle as a youngster, and I've just learned from each day, and I've still not stopped learning, because when I'm in the gym now, I've got a sensor on the side of my hip where I check my sugar levels, and it shows whereabouts my sugar levels are. So it's hard each and every day, but it's just getting to learn more about myself.
Yeah, and I guess when you sort of stepped in the boxing gym and were sort of so natural at it, obviously took to it pretty quickly. That must have been sort of a bit of it must have been a nice feeling, a bit of an escape almost. You say you sort of sometimes felt a bit left out with the diabetes thing. It must have been nice to sort of go into the boxing gym and not just compete, but be pretty good at it pretty quickly, pick it up so quick.
Yeah, it was a massive breakdown though. I'd been going to the gym for about 6 weeks, and the coach said, I'd like to speak to your father, and then my medical got cancelled due to me being diabetic. It was a massive breakdown because, no disrespect, but other children who I felt as they're not as good as me, they're getting to compete, and whereas because I'm diabetic, I'm being left to one side now, and I felt like my training had dropped because I'm not being able to compete for a medical reason. So the coaches were like leaving me to one side and coaching the other kids who are going to be competing, which is rightful. But it was very hard at the time. So I started playing football. And I was about 13 at the time, then spoke to my healthcare professionals and they managed to get me my medical sorted. I passed all my medicals and I boxed for the same amateur gym as Scott Quigg and Amir Khan, Berry Amateur Boxing Club. And my first coach, my second coach, Mick Jelly, he coached me at Berry Amateur Boxing Club. I was 17 and I boxed as a senior. I wasn't able to compete as a junior or a youth. So I had no junior experience. I had no youth experience. So I was like thrown in the deep end, boxing as a senior, like as an open adult. And I won my first 2 fights with a knockout. So it went, very well. I had a good amateur career. And then in 2015, I was an amateur for about 4 years. I had 34 fights. I won 29. I won the Celtic Box Cup, the Haringey Box Cup. I remember getting interviewed by Steve Bunce when I won the Haringey Box Cup in London. And Chris Eubank Jr. won it the year before. So I was, absolute buzzing to win that tournament and won the Celtic Box Cup. I won the university championship as well, in Whole of England. I think it's England and Wales. I won that and then turned professional in 2015, and my professional boxing medical was then rejected, cancelled because of being diabetic again. So diabetes has been a big battle for me in the ring and out of the ring.
Yeah, when you were going through, first of all, the first time as an amateur, when your license got rejected, you said you started playing football again, and then it happened again as a professional. Did you ever consider, did you ever think this isn't for me, just pack it on the head, consider quitting boxing, or were you always determined that you were going to fight it and get that medical?
Do you know what? It's been a crazy journey. It's been a funny journey, what I can't explain to you, Rich, because I've always seen light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I am going to create history again, all being well. I'm being managed by MTK. I've created history once, becoming the first diabetic professional boxer in the United Kingdom. I don't know about the world, but in the United Kingdom. And I want to create history again for the second time in the whole world by becoming a world champion. As a professional boxer, being the first diabetic to become a world champion, and this will go down in history in the whole world. And I'm being managed by MTK, who are managing Tyson Fury, Billy Joe Saunders, Carl Frampton, big names. And I hope I get guided down a good route, to create history again. But this pandemic's been a big downfall because I was supposed to box in March, September and December. But because of the pandemic, not only myself, but many other boxers have been stopped from competing. But sorry, what was your question, Rich? I've forgotten.
No, just gonna say, did you ever consider quitting boxing when you were going through those tough times? But you said you always saw light
Rich.
in the tunnel.
Yeah, I always saw light at the end of the tunnel. For example, in 2015, when my license got rejected, I went to America. I went to watch Amir Khan versus Canelo Alvarez. I went out there, met Derry Matthews. He was on the same flight as me, and got talking to these guys. Got to meet Mike Tyson, and just speaking boxing with these guys, and they just motivated me. Like, for example, people when they go to watch a boxing, they turn it into like a holiday. I didn't turn it into a holiday. Like, for example, they go out there, have fun. You go in Las Vegas, they have their fun, enjoy themselves. Whereas I planned it before I went with a friend of mine, and he's a big boxing fan as well. Like, for example, if there's any shows on across England, like the Matchroom shows, like when Carl Froch boxed George Groves at Manchester Arena, Joshua boxed when he won his world title against Charles Martin. All these, when Carl Froch boxed a rematch against Groves at Wembley, Klitschko, Joshua, all these fights. I've been to them all, George Groves and Eubank. Been to all these fights. I never miss a boxing show. I'm a massive boxing fan. So I said to my friend, look, let's plan it out and let's make we went for 3 weeks and we hired a car from here, over in America. So we said, let's go to all the gyms. So we went to a Mayweather gym, but at the time they were renovating the gym. So it was closed. We met Roger Mayweather outside, but obviously couldn't go inside. They were decorating the gym and refurbishing it. So we drove down to Johnny Toco's gym. We went there, trained there. I've forgotten which world champion we met in there. So I got to do pad work with their local coach. I took my boxing gloves with me. So we drove down to LA, the Wildcard Boxing Gym, and bumped into famous Freddie Roach. And the gym was so busy. I remember the lad who boxed Ricky Burns in Scotland, Ray Beltran, that's his name. Yeah. Ray Beltran was there sparring, and I went over to him, got talking and watched him spar. So got talking boxing with Freddie Roach, and we went downstairs. He said, look, you know a lot about boxing history. Let's go downstairs. I'll show you some history. So he took me in the private gym. He showed me Miguel Cotto's, all his... his frames, what he's put up, Manny Pacquiao's, history. He showed me the gloves they're using, and I got to pad with Freddie Roach. So I said to him, look, this is a problem I'm having in the UK. Would there be a problem for me to get licensed in America, in the US? And he said to me, look, I've never come across this problem, but you will overcome it because it's discrimination. If you're fit and healthy, you should be boxing. And he padded me, and it gave me like a boost when he said that to me. He said, look, you will get your license. It's just you've sometimes just got to fight for a case. And the British Boxing Board was just fine with me. They just said, look, you've got to overcome a few medicals, and if you do that, you're happy to box. We're happy for you to box. And that's exactly what happened. They just set some rules and regulations for me, to be safe in that ring first and foremost. And I went and passed the medicals, and it was after 2 years when I got my license. So it has been a long, hard journey, but I'm reaping the rewards now. I receive thousands of messages from, diabetics from all across the world, asking me questions. How do you manage your diet? How are you even boxing? Do your blood sugars drop often? And, just general questions what diabetics have. They're always asking me. And I'm a sports ambassador now for Diabetes UK.
Yeah, nice one. And then you mentioned some of those questions. So what sort of challenges does it pose to you on a day-to-day basis in a boxing sense? Obviously, it's, a physical sport. You're sort of training hard. What sort of steps do you have to take to sort of manage it in a boxing sense? What sort of challenges does it pose?
Like, for example, boxing is a weight categorized sport. Diabetes consists of your nutrition, eating good foods, so your sugar levels are leveled out. And if I consume bad calories, my weight will go up. So boxing-wise, it's a negative. Diabetes-wise, it's a negative. But if I consume good calories, train at the right time, my weight will be well managed. So boxing-wise, it's a positive. Diabetes-wise, it's a positive. So I think diabetes and boxing work hand in hand because they both consist of consuming good nutrition. And if I'm consuming bad calories, I'll only have negative results in both aspects, even in boxing as well as my diabetes. So I think if it wasn't for boxing, my diabetes wouldn't be controlled as good as it is right now as we speak.
Yeah, and you mentioned
I won't be consuming water. Yeah. I'll be having a bottle of Coke instead.
Yeah. And you mentioned you're an ambassador and obviously want to make history and stuff like that as the only or the first diabetic boxer who came in.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a kid growing up, do you kind of wish that you had someone that you could look up to, that you could see someone, see someone that was diabetic, that was, doing these sort of things? Is that something that you sort of are passionate about, wanting to give, the next generation someone that they can see that's in the same shoes as them, sort of thing?
Absolutely. Rich, that's exactly what I want to do. I wish I could speak to somebody, who's done something like myself, as a diabetic. For example, what's his name? The rower, Sir Steve Redgrave. He's a type 1 diabetic, and I'd love to meet Sir Steve Redgrave and ask him how did he go out in the open, sea. And I think he's a 5-time Olympic gold medalist. Come on, that's some going. And I've looked up to him. Like, for example, when I was fighting my case, I got in touch with the sports endocrinologist. His name, Dr. Ian Gallen. That's his name, and he's the doctor consultant of Sir Steve Redgrave, and he said like, Sir Steve Redgrave is a human, amazing human being. He said his fitness levels are on another level, and I said to him, look, come on, get me to meet him. I'd like to meet him. I've watched so much of him, his documentaries and what he's done. I'd love to meet him, but it's not come across up till this day. I'd love, to meet him, or he could come to watch me box.
Yeah, and you mentioned that trip you went on to America sounded like a great trip. Did you mention that you met Mike Tyson while you were out there as well?
Yeah, I met Mike Tyson. I met Andre Ward. I had a good chat with Mike Tyson. We were all queued up in the queue. When we took our pictures, there's about 40, 50 people queued up. I remember him going into the escalators, and when they opened up, he was in front of us going into escalator, and the doors hadn't shut yet. And before they closed, he goes to me, "Good luck, champ," in front of everybody. And they're all like, yeah, "Do you know him? Do you know him?" I thought, yeah, he's good friends of mine, Mike. It was amazing meeting Mike Tyson. I got to meet Vasyl Lomachenko, got to meet Andre Ward, Badu Jack, Adrian Broner. Got to meet a lot of boxers out there.
Yeah, and you mentioned as well how the pandemic's obviously been a challenge. You sort of, I think 6-0, aren't you? You moved pretty quickly once you got the license and turned pro. You had a good start, so it must have been, you must have been pretty frustrated that you haven't been able to fight for about a year or so because of the pandemic.
You know what, Rich? I've had a good think about this, right? This year, I think it's been a good break for me because I've had a fast start, learning the trade. I'm at a great gym now. I'm training at Oliver's gym. Sadly, Oliver Harrison passed away last year, not the year before. And I'm training with his brother, Humphrey Harrison. He's a fantastic coach. I just learn something new of him each and every session. I'm at a wonderful gym, and even Humphrey said to me, he said, look, this game, it's not about sprinting, it's a marathon, taking your time, like learning something new we're learning something new each day, working on foot drills, on hand speed, power, strength. And this pandemic, it is sad what's happened, with all the deaths, condolences, to all the families out there who've suffered. But for myself, I've had a time to sit back and reflect on my boxing career as well as diabetes, how to make myself better as a boxer, how to make, control my diabetes in a better manner. So I've had room, to have a look at myself. Whereas when the fights were coming, like I said, I was supposed to box in March, September and December. I'd be going in and out. I'd be training twice a day. I'd be in and out of the gym. It would have been like a rat race for me, not having time to think about my life and what I'm doing. But I've had a good, 12 months or 13 months now since I've last boxed, to have a good think about what I'm doing with myself. So it's been a good rest mentally, but not physically because I've still been training.
Yeah, have you been focused fully on training, or have you had to sort of have you been able to sort of work outside the ring and stuff like that? Has it been tough financially? No, obviously not fighting, not earning, but
yeah, it's been tough financially, not earning money. But to be honest with you, Rich, it's not about the money. Obviously, the money is the treat. The money will come when you're fighting for the big belts. But at this moment in time, not earning the best of money. I'm going to be honest with you. But it's been hard, not being able to box. But it's the past 12 months, I have been training, but like I said, because of the lockdown, we've had to stop for a few weeks. Like, for example, back in March, the gyms came to a standstill. Then the board allowed us to start training, and during this lockdown now, I've been training because the board have allowed us to.
Yeah, and obviously you've fought a lot of sort of small hall shows so far, and I mean it's going to be. I guess that's one of the big. We've seen the sort of the big shows have been back behind closed doors. Some of the
Yeah,
matchroom shows, the Frank Warren shows, but yeah, you sort of now sort of anxious a little bit about what's going to happen with the small hall shows when that sort of stuff can get back up and running, because obviously that's been the sort of stage you've been fighting on
yeah,
so far.
yeah. I'm with the MTK, and they've been holding the behind closed doors shows, and I'm
Yeah,
hoping
that's some
I'll
good
get
shows
put on.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm hoping I get put on one of them. All being well, get back into training properly, and hopefully, all being well, I'll get to box on one of them shows. But it
Yeah, and
has
like
been very hard, because I've had 6 fights within, I think, 18 months or 2 years, and I think in my first year, I had 3 fights in like 4 months, and it's been a nice little break, but I'd like to, get up and running again, back fighting with the date. Like behind closed doors, MTK are holding the shows. I'd like to get put on a show. I want to create history again, being the first diabetic in the whole world to become a world champion and guided down the right route.
Yeah, and you mentioned sort of from the very first fight you went to, that Ricky Hatton Costa Sue fight in
Oh,
Manchester. Obviously,
amazing.
you've been
Amazing.
to a lot of big ones since. Yeah, I guess it must be obviously now professional 6-0. When fans get back, it must be sort of you must be looking forward to the chance to hopefully if you all being well achieve the stuff you're dreaming of, to be on that sort of stage yourself one day, having been there as a
Oh,
fan so many times.
yeah, that would be a dream come true. Like, for example, on my first fight, I had nearly 300 people attending from Rochdale. And like the Manchester Arena will be a dream for me to, box there. You know what the funny thing is, right? Every time I drive past the arena, it's only a 15-minute drive, from my house. And every time I drive past, I always say, whoever's in the passenger with me, or if I'm in the passenger, I'm going to box there one day. Definitely going to box there one day, and I do believe I am going to box there one day, and that's where I'd like to win, a major title and create history at home. And I'd like to be given the chance, to box on a big show. I'm only 6-0, but when stepping up, I'd like to box on a big show, definitely. But I'll leave that in the hands of my management. That's their job, and just leave it in their hands.
Nice one. Yeah, sure. Sure there'll be a lot of people who listen to this rooting for you after hearing your story, and yeah, we'll certainly be hoping it all goes well for you as well.